One, call meeting to order. This is Friday, March 26th, the Hamilton Community Authority meeting. And we'll work through the agenda. Greg, do you want to confirm the public notice submitted? Or
you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
I got put on mute there. We do have the certificate of public notices submitted. We're all set to get our normal procedure.
Yes, I posted it in the lobby and on the HCA website and the city calendar website.
okay, thank you for that. The minutes for the December 9 meeting were distributed. Do you have any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
So, and for purposes of this meeting, especially if you can say your name when you use to make a motion or a second, that'd be helpful.
Jim Fitton. Motion to approve. Dan Bates, second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Reports and communications. I will start with a brief update. Hopefully can provide more information later, but yesterday the National Weather Service warned of high winds causing potential widespread damage such as falling trees, power lines, and more. During this time there was an incident at the Spooky Nook Champion Mill construction site. Shortly after midnight this morning, the structural steel on building 500 fell. No one was on the property at the time and there were no injuries. An analysis of the cause and impact on the project schedule will occur over the next couple of days, at which time we'll provide more information to you. That's about all I know at this point, but they are working on it this morning to see why. But an exciting start. What other reports shall we start with?
So, Sam, if there's no other reports or communications from the officers of the board, I think we're down to the developer report on construction status. And so, Stacy, I think you have that ready to load up and show on the screen.
Yes.
Hey, Greg, this is John Kirsch. I'll just report briefly that, I've continued to work closely with Mike and the city staff on loan draws, and those continue to be processed. From all the various funding sources. And so that process is continuing.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. So I'll give you an update on the project status. Some of the pictures that we show you in a little bit will have changed overnight, literally. But we'll go through this. Building 100 is on the Mill 1 side. That's the west side of B Street. The roofing and outside work continues. The working roof drain installation, installation of sprinkler pipe. Again, that's in building 100. I'll just do a quick walk around the building. Building 200, block wall, steel setting. The plumbing is underway in that area. There are a couple of public plumbing or public bathrooms. And so there's extensive work that's underway to prepare those. The elevator shaft construction is completed, and they're preparing for to receive the elevator car when appropriate. Building 300, the largest building in the single building, which will include the hardwood courts and sport court surfaces. Building center line and the masonry walls are completed. The truss installation is completed. The siding insulation on the west side of that building began earlier this week, and the roof will follow shortly thereafter. That's several weeks of work, potentially 3 or 4 by the time the siding and the roof is in place. Building 400, which covers the fitness area, performance training, some child watch areas. That roof decking is completed. The importance of roof decking being completed is that leads to the sprinkler piping, the electrical conduit, and so we're getting some nice inside areas to work in. And then building 500, the truss installation was continuing. I think we were down to 3 or 4 remaining trusses on that 2-acre building. We'll pause now and figure out how to recover from that. If we go to the next slide, you'll see pictures of the areas to give you a little better idea. Building 300, that's a picture from December of 2020, so only a couple of months ago. You can see 400 is wide open. Building 500 erection did not begin yet, and 300 was nearly complete with the primary structural components. Moving on to the next picture, which takes us to March of 2021, this month. As you can see, building 300 is completed. The roof is on 400, 200, and a little over half of 100. So we're happy with that progress. To get that dried in, we'll provide the next work areas that we need to keep the interior contractors' trades underway. On that picture, you can see building 500 top center. At that point, there were, looks like 5 trusses erected, and they were moving down that line. That was approaching complete installation. So we'll have to see what the impact is on the overall time schedule. On the next slide, you can see building 500 a little better. That's the area that was well underway, and we'll take a clean start at it, I guess, before too long. Again, following picture, you'll see the building 500 truss line on the next picture. Also visible, I think this picture was taken from the administration building roof, and you can see across to the roofing that was being done on. Sorry, this was off of the Mill 2 roof. Straight ahead would be building 400, the fitness area, and you can see the roof work that was underway in that area. Next picture is some interior shots. Again, as I mentioned, when the roof is on, the conduit begins to be installed, and the sprinkler piping. Electrical transformers are on site, so those things are being set. Then the conduit leading from one to the next. Following picture is the Mill 1, building 300. Again, that's the picture to the both of these. No, the picture to the left is of where the hardwood floors will be located. So we're on the west half of that building. That building is separated by a masonry wall down the center. That wall is now completed. There are some openings in that wall for windows, so if you're on the west side, you'll be able to see into the east side, depending on what activities are occurring. There are shutters that will go up and down, so if you need privacy on one side from the other, that will also be able to occur. The following picture, again, still in Mill 1, you see building 200. That's in the, we're standing on the mezzanine, so about 12 feet above the first floor. And that's the metal pan that's been installed. The concrete will be poured before too long in that area. Again, allowing conduit, sprinkler, and plumbing work to continue overhead. on the right picture, that's a temporary rail structure for safety, looking out over the east side of building 300. That space will be the sport court area. A lot of flexibility in that area. It could be volleyball, it could be basketball, field hockey. The lines change. We change the playing surface lines and then change the sport that's underway. That area will also be used for conventions and events. If we need large display areas or that kind of space, we'll be able to use that area as well. Moving into Mill 2, the structure steel set is nearly complete. That is primarily adding the third floor in the event area. Sector B, you can see that B is to the left side of that picture, and that is, that's in where the events will be held. Sector C is primarily hotel along with D, and most of the concrete floors have been poured. They were installing Epic Deck to create the third floor. That will have a concrete pour on top of it as well. So we're probably within a month of concrete work inside Mill 2 being complete. And at this point, the first floor rooms and the second floor rooms are framed. The first floor rooms are drywall has been completed. And on the second floor, drywall is complete on one side. As soon as the inspections are complete, they'll hang the second side of drywall and then move up. By that time, the framing should be far enough along upstairs to at least hang one side. So we're really pleased with the progress on the hotel area, and that work continues northward in the building. So they really started at the right side or the south end of Sector D and began working north with the hotel rooms as they, hotel rooms will continue into Sector C, and then convert to the event space. So all of that concrete and steel structure is has been installed or constructed, and the framing will continue to the north in that building as the hotel rooms are completed. This is another overview of primarily building or Mill 2 on Riverside. In this picture, which is now probably a couple of weeks old, the steel you see is the structural steel for the third floor in the meeting space. So there'll be one large meeting room up on that floor along with some gathering space. And on the picture on the right side, you can see the concrete pans that are being installed, the concrete when it's poured. The next picture is of the a couple of areas in Mill 2. If you could ignore the splotchy look on the paint, we're primarily just pointing out that the fire suppression system is installed, and either we're capitalizing or controlled by the concrete that's there. You can see how they work around or under. The right picture is the it's like the first floor hallway in the hotel area. So you can see the drywall and skin coat finish is already completed. Additional pictures on Mill 2. That would be the concrete floor on the left side is the concrete floor that is poured and now prepared. It takes, I think they need 7 to 14 days for cure, so I'm not sure when it was poured. But the framing will go on top of it for the third floor of hotel rooms. Before any of the framing occurs, you can see in the right side picture the polishing equipment for the concrete. So pretty much the entirety of Mill 2 is a polished concrete finish on the floor. It's practically a lifetime finish. And then in the hotel rooms, some throw rugs and other softer finishes will be added. The next pictures are just more of the same. You see the plumbing work coming through the rooms, electric boxes cut in, skim coat on the left. The right side is just the rough edge drywall. It's not been closed up yet or taped. So just a quick flashback. June 1 of 2020, not quite a year ago. You can see the site work was just beginning. None of the structural steel had been installed yet. And so the entire flat site of Bill 1 is there and awaiting work. So despite some setbacks, we're really pleased with the progress that they've been making, and pretty happy with where we are. We'll talk about this morning at another time, but the progress has been significant since the work really got underway in earnest last year. I think that the site work is probably in the 90-95% complete range. That does not include the stone preparing for paving, but it would be up to the dirt. It would include all the stormwater systems underneath, and the appropriate elevations have been achieved. So I think that's the page 17 of 17 on the presentation. Do you have any questions or comments?
This is John Kirsch. Thanks, Sam. Great presentation. Could somebody with your group maybe give us an update on the building 500 damage? It's a short email or something when you find out what that is.
Yeah, we will. The engineers and insurance personnel, I believe, are going to be on site today. I suspect it'll be Wednesday of next week before we get much of a report, perhaps a little later. But we will certainly communicate whatever information we get with this group as soon as we receive it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Tremendous progress.
Yeah, the Mill 2, is, primarily the convention space or area and hotel, really had a later start than Mill 1. But the guys on the site there have done a great job. And most importantly is the trades are working together in really positive and cooperative ways, and it just allows the work to flow. And so we're really pleased with the progress they've made there. Bill 1 had a bit of a head start, so it had some leeway built into the schedule that kept things progressing. But overall, they're just doing really a fantastic job. I think under reports and communications, if there are no more questions, there will be a discussion of the process to retain an accountant for the authority to track of the financial matters.
Yep. And Sam, I can take this one. So this stems out of a city request for the authority to retain its own accountant. Before now, city staff has been performing accounting functions on behalf of the authority. But as we have more and more transactions, that accounting becomes more and more complex and has taken up more and more of city staff time. So their request is to move that accounting function over to a third-party accountant that the authority would retain. Having authorities retain third-party accountants is not unusual. Many do that. Typically, the process is we would put together an RFP in conjunction with the treasurer of the authority. Once that's final, we give it to all board members so they could send it out to their accountant contacts who want to submit a proposal. We, of course, have some contacts with accountants that serve for other authorities that we would send it to. Once those proposals come back, we would work with the treasurer to develop a recommendation to the board, and we would bring that recommendation back at a future board meeting. If that works for the board, we can proceed in that manner. But of course, as with the retention of any professional for the authority, we'll do the process however the board wants to do it. Sam, I think you're on mute.
Greg, what is the timeline for this type of process?
Typically 3 to 4 weeks. I'd say typically it takes about a week to put the RFP together for the accountant. These tend to be pretty boilerplate RFPs. Once it's put together, again, we'll distribute it to board members to send out. Usually we give the accountants 2 or 3 weeks to put together a proposal and get it back to us. So within about 3 or 4 weeks, we usually have the proposals back. And then it's just a matter at that point, looking at those and then waiting until our next board meeting to officially retain somebody.
Thank you.
Andy Brossard,
Any-
could you speak to the issue of how this cost will be funded?
Yeah, John, we have got this funded already within the capitalized expenses of the bond financing, Trump. And then in the future years, it is sort of baked into the special assessments and the charges that'll be applied to the property and and out of the TIF proceeds.
I'll make a motion to move ahead with this RFP process. John Kirsch.
I'll second. Jason Crank.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Absent any other comments, I think we are in the public comment period. Not sure how that would occur on this call, but I'll stand down and see where it leads.
Yep. Sam, I can report that we have received no public comments directly. When we send out the notices, we do include email addresses for folks to make public comments. We have not received any. Stacy, I don't know if you've received any.
I did not either.
Okay. And is there anyone there at the council chambers?
No.
Okay. So I think that's a none for this meeting.
Thank you. Election of chairperson. Greg, do you walk us through that, or how?
I can certainly walk us through the election of officers. As the board may recall, we elect officers every year. That's a provision in our bylaws, and it's typical for authorities. There are 4 officers of the authority. There's a chairperson and a vice chairperson. Those must be board members. There's also a secretary and a treasurer. Those can be board members, but they do not have to be board members. So the way we will run the process, as in the past, a board member would nominate and another board member would second a nomination for each position. Technically, although it never happens, we can have contested elections and we can have more than one person nominated. After we're done with nominations, we'll have a vote on the officer. So before we start with nominations, are there any questions about the officer process?
Yeah, Greg, this is Jim Fitton. What are the current positions? Who occupies current positions, I guess?
Yeah, so Sam is the chair. Dan Bates is the vice chair. Tom Vanderhorst is the secretary. And John Kirsch is the treasurer.
Thank you. Having heard that, Jim Fitton would make a motion to nominate Sam Weiler as chairperson.
Jason Crank, second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Jim Fitton makes nomination of Dan Bates as vice chairperson.
Who is making that motion?
Jim Fitton.
Thank you, Jim.
And I, Jason Crank, will second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Congratulations, Dan. Next is secretary.
Jim Fitton make a motion to nominate Tom Vanderhorst as secretary.
Jason Crank, second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Congratulations, Tom.
Jim
And finally, treasurer.
Jim Fitton make a motion to nominate John Kirsch as treasurer.
And Jason Crank, second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Congratulations, John.
It's good resume builder.
Absolutely. All right, Sam, back to you.
We have introduction of new motions or resolutions. Resolution 2021-1. Greg, do you want to read it in more detail, or shall it?
Yeah, I can do a brief explanation here. So the city, the Port Authority, and the developer have been discussing a slight change to the construction of the parking lot improvements. What that change would involve is having the Port Authority contract with the developer for the construction of those parking lot improvements. Currently, the way it's authorized is the Port Authority would contract with the new community authority, who would then contract with the developer. For a variety of reasons, it became clear that it's probably more efficient and preferable just to have the Port Authority contract directly with the developer, and then the parking lots as completed would be leased to the community authority to take over operations pursuant to a contract with the developer. So this resolution authorizes that change to the cooperative agreement. I believe the city and the port have both already authorized this. So that is, by voting for this resolution, that's what you'd be voting for. Happy to take any questions about this.
So Greg, just in very quick terms, what's the involvement of the port here? Is that related to possible sales tax exemption, or?
That's part of it. They're also the owner of a few of these lots right now, John. And so as we were thinking about, and frankly, getting to the point where these parking lot improvements are getting contracted for, contracts being put in place, we began to question why the NCA was in the middle of it.
So on a go-forward basis, the NCA will not own the lots. They will have a leasehold interest in the lots and will hire the developer to operate the lots.
Correct.
Got it. Who's going to hold the debt?
The NCA would hold the debt. So if you recall, last spring we issued we authorized parking lot bonds in an amount up to $13 million. We had a term sheet with an investor for that, who we're working with right now to finalize that. Sam and his group have been doing a lot of work on finalizing the estimates and the construction contracts for exactly how much those are going to cost. So once we get that nailed down, we'll be able to put a final sizing on the debt. It does look like it'll be under that $13 million figure. Then we'll close the bonds with that investor that we identified last spring. And then the NCA would simply be providing the funding for the parking lot improvements.
So the collateral will swap from the dirt to a leasehold interest in the dirt.
Yeah, and actually, the way these bonds are set up, the actual parking lots and the dirt are not the collateral for the bonds. These are secured by the community development charges on Mill 1 and Mill 2, and then there's also some charges on the Marriott that's across the river, who agreed to collect what's called a lodging charge, basically an additional amount for each bed night stay at the Marriott. In the same amount that the Mill 1 hotel or the Mill 2 hotel will be collecting.
All right, so there's no hard collateral to any of this. It's a revenue stream that is the collateral.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions related to Resolution 2021-1? Do I have a motion to approve?
Dan Bates,
John Kerr. Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Bates to approve resolution number 2021-1.
Second?
Mike Dollar, second.
So I'm sorry, that was Mike Dollard seconding.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a second resolution for consideration, Resolution 2021-2, retaining the incentive review group. If you could provide explanation there, also I would appreciate it.
Sure thing. So we discussed this at our last meeting. So as part of the bond documents, the authority is required to retain what's called a calculation agent to perform a variety of functions in connection with the administration of both the collection of the charge as well as the payment of the bonds. So what this resolution does is authorize and retain the incentive review group, which is an affiliate of Bradley Payne. Part of the charge coming out of the last meeting was to develop a scope of services that is attached as Exhibit A to the resolution, and also to obtain a quote for those services from the incentive review group. And that quote is $15,000 per year. If you look at the scope of services, there is actually quite a bit that's going into this every year. Probably comes to no surprise to board members. This is a fairly complicated financing with a lot of moving parts. And a major role of the calculation agent is to make sure that everything runs smoothly and we're performing all our obligations under the bond documents in a timely manner. So I will stop there for the moment and offer if Andy Brossart, if you would like to make a couple comments here.
Yeah, Greg, I don't have a whole lot more to add from what you put on there. If anybody has any questions of us or anything that's in the scope of services, happy to answer
that. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, I'll just question. So, and I'm fine with this. Was there an RFP for this or no?
No, not for this. John, you might recall at our last meeting, we talked about whether or not to do an RFP or just to get a quote from Andy's group on this with the scope of services. The board thought it made more sense to just get a quote given Andy's past involvement and knowledge.
Yep. Got it.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
Mike Dollar approves.
Second?
Dan Bates, second.
Thank you, John and Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Any other business to bring before board?
Sam, none I'm aware of. Anything else from other board members?
Okay. next meeting, do we schedule that or hold?
We'll reach out to schedule that, Sam, would be my suggestion, and probably look at something in the late May to early June timeframe.
Okay.
But we can coordinate that and see what makes sense for everybody. I would note that under current state law, our ability to hold these meetings in this fashion remotely expires on July 1. So depending on people's schedule, it does probably make sense to have at least one more meeting prior to July 1.
Okay.
Hey, Mike Dollar, can I give you a call as soon as we're done here?
Sure.
Okay. Having no further business, we should consider adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Stacy, motion.
So moved. John.
Second? Please repeat the second.
Dan Bates, second.
Thank you, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time today. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.